If you're 45 years old right now, stop what you're doing and listen carefully. This is not a motivational video. This is not about starting over or finding your passion. The decisions you make in the next 5 to 10 years will decide whether your 60s are calm and controlled or anxious, dependent, and fragile. 45 is not the middle. It's the last clean setup phase you get. Most people don't realize that until it's too late, not because they were lazy, but because they misunderstood what this age is actually for. Before we go further, let me ask you something. Write in the comments where you're watching from and how old you are. Not for me, for you. There's something grounding about seeing your age written in your own words before you hear what comes next. Here's the dangerous lie about being 45. People tell themselves, I still have time. I'm doing okay. I'll get more serious later. But later is not a plan, and okay is not a strategy. At 45, most people are not broke. They're worse than broke. They're comfortable. Comfortable income, comfortable lifestyle, comfortable habits, and a very uncomfortable future quietly forming underneath. This is the age where obligations peak. Parents need help. Kids get expensive. Careers become harder to reset. Energy doesn't bounce back the way it used to. You can't brute force your way out of mistakes anymore. And you don't have enough time left to recover from repeated stupidity. That's not pessimism. That's math. 45 is not about growth at all costs. It's about positioning. At 35, you can experiment. You can fail. You can start over. At 55, the focus shifts to protection, preserving what you've built. But at 45, you're in between. And that's where people make their biggest mistakes. They keep playing a young person's game with an older person's constraints. They chase upside instead of removing downside. They add complexity instead of resilience. They assume the next decade will look like the last one. It won't. People who reach old age with money, options, and control tend to say the same thing in different words. Wealth at this stage is not about being smarter, it's about being less foolish, avoiding obvious mistakes, building systems that survive bad years, making fewer decisions, but better ones. That's why people like Charlie Munger spent so much time talking about stupidity, fragility, and incentives, not hustle, not optimism, not hype. Because by your mid-40s, the game changes. And if you don't change with it, the game doesn't forgive you. If I were 45 today, with limited time, real responsibilities, and no interest in gambling my future, I would focus on 3 moves. Not 10, not 20. 3. These are not exciting moves. They won't make you sound impressive at dinner, but they dramatically increase the odds that your life gets calmer, not more stressful, as you get older. Let's start with the first one. And fair warning, this one makes most people uncomfortable. The first move at 45 is not to grow faster, it's to become harder to break. If your income dropped by 30% next year, would your life still work? Not feel good, not feel comfortable, but work. If the answer is no, you don't have a growth problem, you have a fragility problem. Most people think their biggest risk at 45 is not making enough money. That's wrong. The real risk is building a life that requires everything to go right. A job that can't be lost. A lifestyle that can't be scaled down. a monthly burn rate that assumes perfect health and perfect timing. That's not confidence. That's leverage disguised as success. The more comfortable your life feels right now, the more fragile it usually is. Fragility doesn't announce itself. It shows up later, during a layoff, a health issue, or a family emergency. At this stage, the goal is robustness. Robust means your life still works when things don't go according to plan. Robust people don't panic in bad years. They adjust. Fragile people don't adjust. They liquidate. They sell investments at the worst possible time. They take on bad debt. They make permanent decisions under temporary stress. That's how people lose decades of progress in a single year. Here's the mental shift most people never make. Income does not create wealth. Surplus does. Income that turns into payments, subscriptions, and convenience does not compound. It evaporates. At 45, your job is not to maximize income at all costs. It's to maximize the amount of money that stays under your control, no matter what happens. Let's get specific. Take your after-tax income. Subtract the number you could live on for 12 to 18 months if you had to, without drama. The gap between those two numbers is your surplus. If that surplus is under 20%, you don't have an income problem. You have a lifestyle problem. 6 figures of income with 4 figures of savings is not success. It's just expensive stagnation. By 45, most people are funding 3 lives at the same time. The life they're actually living, the life they think they should be living, and the life they're too tired to question. That's exhausting. And it's expensive. The fix is not guilt. The fix is honesty. Your lifestyle should work even if your income drops by 1/3. If that idea scares you, your lifestyle is too expensive. 3 decisions make this easier. First, housing. Keep it under 25% of gross income. If you're over, you either earn more or you downsize. Yes, even if you love the place. Second, cars. Any car payment over $500 a month is usually status, not transportation. Drive something boring for a few years. Let the savings buy you flexibility later. Third, convenience spending. Subscriptions, delivery, small monthly leaks. If you wouldn't buy it again today, cancel it. Boring savings beat exciting purchases at this stage of life. This is not about deprivation. It's about choosing future calm over present appearance. You're not cutting your life in half to suffer. You're cutting the fat so the muscle can grow. And at 45, that muscle is your surplus. If you do nothing else, do this one thing. Make your life survivable without heroics. Because once your downside is controlled, everything else gets easier. The second move at 45 is to simplify. Not because simple is elegant, but because complexity becomes dangerous at this age. Complexity hides risk, and hidden risk is what ruins people in their late 40s and 50s. Most people don't feel reckless at 45. They feel responsible. Multiple accounts, side investments, real estate they manage, business ideas that never quite die. It feels diversified. It feels mature. But very often, it's just decision fatigue pretending to be sophistication. You don't have too little information. You have too many moving parts. People who keep control into old age don't win by making more decisions. They win by making fewer decisions and repeating them for a long time. They don't collect assets. They own a small number of things they understand deeply. Ownership thinking beats collector thinking every time. Collectors ask, "What else should I add?" Owners ask, "What can I remove without weakening the system?" That question alone eliminates half the mistakes people make at this age. If your financial life cannot be explained on one page, it's too complicated. Quality is not excitement. Quality is durability. Something that still works when the headlines turn ugly. Fewer assets, fewer strategies, fewer assumptions. You don't need 10 good ideas. You need 3 to 5 boring ones that survive time. Here's a filter that changes everything. For every investment, every project, every commitment, ask one question. Would I be comfortable owning this if I couldn't touch it for 10 years? If the answer is no, you're not investing. You're speculating. One of the smartest phrases you can use at 45 is, "This is too hard for me to understand." That's not weakness. That's discipline. People get into trouble not because they say no too often, but because they say yes when they shouldn't. Open a blank page. Write down everything you own that is supposed to make you money. Next to each item, write one sentence, what it is and why it works. If you can't write that sentence clearly, you don't understand it well enough to own it. Simplify until the page feels calm, not impressive. At 45, boring is not a weakness. Boring is protection. Excitement is for people with decades left to recover. You're not behind. You're just done with unnecessary risk. Complexity doesn't make you rich. It makes you busy. Focus gives you something much better at this age: control. The third move at 45 is not optimism. It's preparation. Because at this age, surprises stop being hypothetical and start being expensive. In your 30s, problems are inconvenient. In your 40s, they're disruptive. Parents age. Kids need more than food and clothes. Jobs disappear longer than you expect. Health issues don't ask for permission. If you are not planning for these things, you are not unlucky. You are unprepared. And unprepared people don't fail slowly. They fail all at once. There's a phrase people who survive long games understand: expect disruption. That sounds negative. It's not. It's freeing. When you expect problems, you stop being shocked by them. And when you're not shocked, you don't make desperate decisions. At 45, readiness comes down to 3 things: cash, clarity, and emotional discipline. Miss any one of them, and the system breaks. You need boring money sitting somewhere boring. Not invested, not optimized, not clever. 6 months of non-negotiable expenses. Real cash you can access within days. This is not a drag on returns. This is what keeps you from selling your future at a discount when life gets loud. If you don't have this buffer, pause new investing and build it. Surviving bad years beats optimizing good ones. At 45, you don't want to be inventing rules in the middle of a crisis. You need decisions made in advance. Write them down. What happens if you lose your job? What expenses get cut first? What debt is off limits? What help can you give family? And where is the line? That piece of paper is an emotional firewall. It keeps panic from hijacking your future. This part is rarely discussed. Your 40s are emotionally heavy. You see the gap between where you thought you'd be and where you are. You see friends diverging, some winning, some struggling. Emotional discipline is not pretending you're fine. It's deciding that your feelings don't get to vote on your financial decisions. Anxiety doesn't change the plan. Excitement doesn't change the plan. That's not cold, that's maturity. Preparation doesn't remove pain, it removes chaos. And at 45, chaos is the real enemy. Before we finish, let's talk about what not to do at 45. This matters just as much as the 3 moves we covered, because at this age, avoiding stupidity is more important than finding brilliance. First, don't try to time the market. You don't have the temperament. You don't have the emotional margin, and even if you guessed right once, the stress isn't worth the return. Second, don't take on new debt for lifestyle. If you can't pay cash, you can't afford it. Debt at 45 doesn't buy freedom, it steals options from your future self. Third, don't co-sign anything for anyone, even family. You can help people without tying your credit to their decisions. Fourth, don't treat your home like an ATM. Your home equity is not an emergency fund, and it's not investment capital. Once you start pulling money out, you add leverage to your life. Leverage in your 40s is a bad trade. Fifth, don't ignore your health to chase a little more income. Medical bills are more expensive than the time you think you're saving. And finally, don't wait for certainty. Certainty does not exist. It never did. Reasonable confidence and a long horizon are enough. If this feels uncomfortable, that's a good sign. It means you're actually listening. If you want more conversations like this, calm, direct, and built for people who don't want hype, subscribe. And leave a comment with one thing you know you need to stop doing. Writing it down makes it real. Let's turn all of this into action. Not a lifetime plan, not a reinvention, just the next 90 days. Week 1. Calculate your true surplus. Income minus non-negotiables. If it's under 20%, write down your 3 biggest leaks and eliminate one immediately. Week 2. Audit everything that's supposed to make you money. If you can't explain it in one sentence, research it or remove it. Week 3. Check your cash buffer. If it's under 3 months, pause new investing and start building towards 6. Week 4. Write your emergency rules on 1 page. Job loss, family help, big expenses. Decisions made now are cheaper than decisions made in panic. Month 2 is about strengthening the structure. Negotiate 1 fixed cost. Insurance, phone, internet. Take the savings and redirect them automatically. Increase your automatic investing by even 3 to 5%. If it pinches a little, that's fine. Pressure builds strength when it's controlled. Month 3 is about stability. Review your career. If you lost your job tomorrow, could you land something comparable in 90 days? If not, spend 10 focused hours this month fixing that. Update skills, update connections. Then do one more thing. Write a 1-page note to yourself at 55. What do you want to be true? What are you grateful you started at 45? What do you wish you had stopped sooner? Read that page once a quarter. If you actually do this, here's what will happen. For the first 60 days, you'll feel poorer. That's normal. You're not poor. You're redirecting resources. By month 4, you'll feel clear. By month 8, you'll see movement where there was none before. And one day, you'll notice something quietly powerful. You're calm, while other people your age are panicking. If someone wise were sitting across from you at 45, they wouldn't tell you to rush. They'd tell you this: you're not behind. But you are out of time for illusions. The next 10 years matter more than the last 20. Not because they're longer, but because they're still yours to control. Build robustness. Simplify. Prepare for impact. Then sit still and let boring decisions work. In your 60s, calm will be your reward, and you'll be glad you took this age seriously when it still mattered.